The top stories tonight in the Y News. The OCTA Research Group warned of the possible resurgence of COVID-19 infections in the country by April or May.
The Philippine National Police has deployed over 100 police officers in areas in Batangas affected by the eruption of Taal volcano on Saturday.
Oil firms will implement another major hike in pump prices of petroleum products on Tuesday.
Authorities issue an evacuation order for thousands of people near a fast-moving Colorado wildfire.
Good evening, Philippines and the world. Today is Monday, March 28, 2022. Join us in the next hour as we deliver today's top stories around the Philippines and in other parts of the world. I am Harleen Delgado.
We are also seen in 1,935 satellite monitoring centers nationwide and via live streaming worldwide through the UNTV News and Rescue social media accounts and our website, untvweb.com. I am William Theo.
First in the news, the OCTA research team is seeing a continuous decline of COVID-19 cases in the country. However, the independent group sees a possible surge of new cases by April or May 2022. Aiko Miguel will tell us why live. Yes, Aiko?
Yes, Harleen, COVID-19 cases in the country and the whole national capital region declined by 24%. OCTA research team says COVID-19 case trend in the Philippines is on a downward trend. OCTA research fellow Professor Guido David said they have a projection that COVID-19 cases may even be below 300 tomorrow.
For today, I'm expecting, somewhere between around 300, and tomorrow we might get, 200 or even less than, or even less than 200 cases tomorrow and Wednesday. So cases are still declining.
However, Harleen, Professor David also warns of a new COVID-19 surge by next April or May with a low booster vaccination rate.
It might happen in April or May kasi what we have to seriously take into consideration right now yung waning immunity which has been observed in many countries. If we don't focus on boosters 3 months after the surge, from January, I'm not saying it will happen, but there's some risk that there will be, an increase in cases, uptick in cases because of the waning immunity. So that is something that we definitely have to deal with. We can't be complacent.
First, remind the public to complete their primary series and get boosted against COVID-19. Professor David said the administration of fourth dose for some sectors in the country could help in the decline of COVID-19 cases. Experts are also seeing the possibility for a yearly COVID-19 vaccination like the flu immunization. The OCTA research team further explained they see three causes of a new surge of COVID-19 cases. One is the emergence of a new COVID-19 variant, waning immunity of COVID-19 vaccines, and complacency of people alongside with the opening of economy and tourism in the Philippines. And that is the latest live. Back to you, Hardy.
Thank you, Aiko Miguel, reporting live from Quezon City.
Meanwhile, Presidential Advisor for Entrepreneurship Joey Concepcion says the new normal is unlikely to be implemented in the Philippines by April. Rosa Licos explains why.
It will be dangerous for the Philippines to shift to new normal in April or remove the alert level system. According to Presidential Advisor for Entrepreneurship Joey Concepcion, this is because of the low booster uptake in the country.
Delikado kung buksan natin at itanggalin yung alert level natin hanggang maayos to, no? At yun ang problema natin. Hindi ngayon ang posibleng surge, no? Ang posibleng surge, baka nasa second half tayo. No, kasi dyan, kung hindi tataas yung booster update ng team sense natin, baka may surge tayo sa second half.
The official added though the country has high rate of vaccination, the booster vaccination rate is far from the target. He made the statement while reiterating that the effectivity of COVID-19 vaccines wanes after several months.
Mas importante yung level of boosting sa bansa natin, no. Kailangan at least 70 to 80% bago natin tanggalin yung emergency health status, no. Kasi nakikita natin sa ibang lugar may mga surges.
According to the Department of Health, more than 40 million Filipinos who are already eligible for booster shot have yet to avail it. Recent government data shows as of March 24, 2022, there are only 11.74 million who are boosted in the country. While 78.5% of the target population have received their first dose and 72.81% have completed their primary series. Infectious diseases expert Dr. Ronjin Sulante also warned about the possibility of new surge of COVID-19 infections like what other countries such as South Korea, Hong Kong, and Vietnam are battling. This is due to more transmissible Omicron BA2 subvariant, opening of the economy, easing of restrictions, and waning immunity of vaccines. Rosa Licoz, UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
Nearly 2 years since its closure due to the pandemic, the Ninoy Aquino International Airport Terminal 4 is now back in business after finally reopening for domestic travelers. Janice Hente has the story.
The NAIA Terminal 4 has resumed operations for domestic flights servicing Cebu Pacific's Sevgo, Air Asia Philippines, and Air Swift Airlines. Operations in the Manila Airport's oldest facility were suspended in 2020 because of the COVID-19 pandemic. With this, the Manila International Airport Authority hopes to decongest 12,000 passengers from the NAIA Terminal 3.
Malaking kabawasan at luluwag na rin po ang ating Terminal 3 at makaka-accommodate tayo ng additional flights magmula ron sa Terminal 3. Unti-unti nang dumadami at dumadagdag ang mga flights na minamount ng mga domestic carriers.
Sevgo said 27 domestic flights have transferred from NAIA Terminal 3 to Terminal 4. Air Asia Philippines said it flies at least 50 flights per day. Air Swift Airlines, meanwhile, has 8 destinations: Basco, Batanes, Busuanga, Clark, El Nido in Palawan, Mactan, Cebu, Naiya, and Sicogon Island in Iloilo. The MIA is hopeful that the reopening of Terminal 4 may bring back to 15,000 the number of daily average passengers. Janice Hente, UNTV, News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
And commuters can ride the Metro Railway Transit or MRT3 for free for over a month starting today until the 30th of April. The management expects up to 300,000 average daily passengers. JP Nunez reports.
To augment passenger capacity during the month-long free ride, the MRT3 launched today 2 new train sets that will run during the peak hours of 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. and 5 p.m. to 7 p.m. The new train sets can accommodate 1,576 passengers each and will be deployed on top of the existing 18 three-car train sets. The month-long free ride aims to help the public ease the burden of rising fuel prices and return to on-site work.
Siguro baka abutin tayo ng mga 300,000 or more, kung tuloy-tuloy. Kasi ngayon nakita namin, nagmo-monitor kami, mahabang pila, from all stations, and it looks like mukhang pabalik na tayo sa pre-pandemic.
For those who wish to avail the free ride, the commuter must follow these instructions. If you have a valid stored value or beep card, simply tap the card at the ticket gate to enter the platform. To exit after riding the MRT, tap your card again at the ticket gate. Your card will not be charged for your ride. If you don't have a valid stored value or beep card, get a single journey ticket from the ticketing booth. Tap your card at the ticket gate to enter the platform and tap it again at the ticket gate before exiting your station of destination. Careful not to damage or lose your ticket to avoid paying a 50 peso penalty fee. Health protocols inside the train such as no talking, no eating, no drinking, and no answering of phone calls will still be implemented. JP Nunez, UNTV, News and Rescue. We serve the people. We give glory to God.
After a major rollback last week, oil prices will increase anew. With this, jeepney drivers raise concern over the rising prices. Eileen Cerudo reports.
The rising pump prices continues to be problematic for jeepney drivers.
Wala na po kaming kikitain yan, ma'am. Kung magkakaganon na tataas man.
In an advisory, oil companies will raise prices by 8 peso and 65 centavos per liter of diesel. Gasoline prices might jump by 3 pesos and 40 centavos per liter. Per liter of kerosene will cost 9 pesos and 40 centavos higher. With the oil price hike, jeepney drivers worry about how to budget their earnings to survive the day. Most jeepney drivers say what they earn is no longer enough to feed their family.
Kung tataas na naman ang natin, ang crudo, ang langis, darating na naman ang panahon na ang kikitain namin maliit. Tapos, bibiyahe kami, uunahin namin ng crudo. Tapos, boundary, panghapon na yun sa amin. Yung kikitain namin, minsan masisiraan pa, hindi na kami kikita.
Wala tayong magawa, ma'am. Siyempre, susunod lang tayo. Yung lang namin, kahit lang bumaba na naman ng kunti. Yun, kapag tataas, siyempre, wala kami magagawa.
The Land Transportation Franchising and Regulatory Board continues to distribute the fuel subsidy for public utility drivers. However, some drivers lament they have not received any assistance from the government.
Wala pa ako. Ang nangyayari, hindi pa napupuntahan doon yung card na yellow. Hindi pa nabibigay sa amin, hindi pa namin napupuntahan. Yun lang ang magiging dapat yun, maibigay din kagad.
The LTFRB previously explained that the process of releasing the fuel subsidy lags due to incomplete documents of drivers. Based on the latest report of the LTFRB, 108,000 drivers and operators already received their fuel subsidy assistance. Meanwhile, the LTFRB is waiting for the decision of the Commission on Elections if it would exempt the disbursement of funds for service contracting program. The LTFRB said once the 7 billion budget has been downloaded by the Department of Budget and Management, they will immediately implement the service contracting when around 93 million passengers will benefit from the program. Eileen Cerudo, UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people. We give glory to God.
The Philippine National Police is keeping a close watch on areas affected by the recent seismic activity of the Taal volcano. Thousands of residents have been affected and evacuated amid the unrest. Leia Ilagan reports.
The Batangas PNP deployed more than 100 cops in Agoncillo and Laurel, Batangas after the Taal volcano erupted last Saturday. Batangas Provincial Director Police Colonel Glicerio Cancilao says police personnel are now manning the checkpoint to ensure that residents will not go back to their houses amid the risk. Some of the policemen are patrolling the abandoned barangays to avoid looting.
Sa ating pong mga kababayan, lalong-lalo na dito sa mga naapektuhan na naman itong pagputok ng ating bulkang Taal, ay akin pong inihiling ang kanilang kooperasyon upang nang sa ganun ay atin pong mapagtulong-tulungan na maayos ang ating pagharap nito sa ganitong sitwasyon.
Cancilao adds, if the situation worsened, they have 1,700 reactionary standby support force or RSSF ready to be deployed if needed.
Ito pong sitwasyon natin ito ay mag-escalate, ay kasama noon yun doon sa mga contingency plan na nakalatag na doon. Mayroon tayong reactionary standby support forces na nakatalaga ho rito. At maliban po doon ay mayroon po tayong mga naka-standby rin doon sa ating mga counterpart from the Armed Forces of the Philippines and then Philippine Coast Guard.
The PNP headquarters is also prepared to give logistical support if the need arises.
With the alert level of Taal volcano now raised to level 3, we do have to upend our preparation for massive evacuation and relief operations of people affected by this natural disaster, and this might means we have to preposition our logistical assets should the need arise to mobilize them.
But Calabar Zone Director, Police Brigadier General Antonio Yara said augmentation from the headquarters or from nearby regional offices is not yet needed as the situation can still be handled in the provincial level. Leia Ilagan, UNTV, News and Rescue. We serve the people. We give glory to God.
The vegetable traders of La Trinidad Benguet are appealing anew to lawmakers on the issue of vegetable smuggling in the country as it threatens the livelihood of farmers with millions of pesos being lost to smugglers. Arlene Delgado has the story.
The Benguet farmers and traders are lamenting the double decline in their orders with the proliferation of smuggled carrots from China in various markets in the country. As the Senate Committee of the Whole continues its probe on smuggled vegetables, Agot Balanoy of the League of Associations of the La Trinidad Vegetable Trading Areas reveals they lose up to 2.5 million pesos per day due to smuggled carrots.
There are cases wherein the farmers are giving away their produce as reliefs or they throw it away in the farm or even kahit pa nga sa roadside, binabasura na nila eh.
Wala na talaga, hindi namin alam kung mabubuhay pa yung industry namin sa Benguet. Doon nang gagaling yung kinakain natin na pang chapsoy, pang pansit. Kami ang nagsusupply doon. Pag namatay yung industry namin, di apektado tayong lahat.
Balanoy adds market buyers prefer carrots from China as it can be stored for 2 months compared to local carrots that can only last for 2 to 3 days. Senate President Vicente Soto III, who also chairs the committee, has called on the government to test the imported carrots as it may contain chemicals such as formaldehyde. Some senators also questioned the inability of the Department of Agriculture and the Bureau of Customs to resolve technical smuggling by filing cases and the lack of full automation in their systems. DA Assistant Secretary Federico Lasista Jr. admits they have no real-time monitoring of agricultural products entering the country. BOC Assistant Commissioner Vincent Maronilla also notes that there were discrepancies in the data between the two agencies.
Ang nangyayari po is behind po ang mga monitoring po natin at saka pag-balancing po. Wala po kaming centralized database po for that. As per our study, sir, namin, sir, lahat naman, sir, to technical smuggling. When you say technical smuggling, sir, lahat, sir, ito dumadaan sa all legal trade channel. Dumadaan siya sa legal trade channel, sir. Pero, sir, ang nangyayari lang, sir, dyan is yung problem po natin sa automation, sir.
We actually ventured into a lot of modernization projects also independently, and we will provide the Honorable Senate of these modernization efforts that we made.
Meanwhile, Lasista confirms before the committee that there were former public officials who tried to influence him against going after smugglers. He adds he is willing to divulge the names in an executive session.
Nung mga hinuhuli ko, sir, yung mga cases natin na nakaraan noong 2021, may mga tumatawag po kasi sa akin noon, mga matataas na tao. And, pero ang ginawa ko po doon, hindi ko na po inaksyonan. Instead, tinuloy pa rin namin yung paghuli.
The Senate Committee of the Whole is set to conduct another hearing on the issue. Arlene Delgado, UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people. We give glory to God. The Commission on Elections may approve additional sanctions against candidates who will not attend the Comelec organized debates. Dante Almento tells us why.
The Commission on Elections is expected to deliberate on Wednesday the additional sanctions for debate skippers. Commissioner George Erwin Garcia disclosed the Law Department and the Education and Information Division were directed to submit their recommendation to the ANBank.
For them to immediately submit
this Wednesday, ano pa ang iba pang sanction na pwede natin ipataw o ipatupad doon sa mga hindi nakakadalo sa ating debate, lalo pa halimbawa yung pagdalo ay walang credible o tamang rason.
The poll body admits it is hard for them to impose heavy sanctions against candidates who will not participate their debates due to the absence of a law.
Muli, sinasabi po natin dahil nga ito'y voluntary, hindi naman to obligatory, wala naman po kasing umiiral na batas. Initially talaga, hirap na hirap ang Commission on Election. Aaminin po natin na makapagdagdag pa ng pwedeng ipataw na parusa kung meron man.
Meanwhile, the Commission is not inclined to one-on-one debate setup. Commissioner Garcia explains it will be unfair for other candidates. Candidates should be side by side as they respond to questions and lay down their programs in government.
Pagka po kasi nag-one-on-one, nakakahilit, unfair naman po naman doon sa mga ibang kandidato. Para po tayong nagdi-discriminate. Ang lahat po ng mga kandidato ay may equal chance na mabigyan ng kanilang entablado at kanilang panahon.
The second round of the Comelec presidential debates will be on Sunday, April 3, 2022, 7 p.m. at Sofitel, Manila. Dante Amento, UNTV, News and Rescue. We serve the people. We give glory to God.
Davao City Vice Mayor Sebastian Baste Duterte hopes his father, President Rodrigo Duterte, will soon endorse presidential bet Ferdinand Bongbong Marcos Jr. Nel Maribuhok will tell us why.
Presidential son Davao City Vice Mayor Sebastian Baste Duterte said there are signs that his father, President Rodrigo Duterte, will back the candidacy of presidential candidate Ferdinand Bongbong Marcos Jr.
Hindi pa natin alam, but there are signs na nakita natin na PDP laban nag-release na ng statement na they're supporting BBM. So I hope the President will express his support to BBM.
The younger Duterte said he hopes that the president will soon endorse Marcos Jr. The PDP Laban faction led by Energy Secretary Alfonso Cusi and backed by the president himself earlier announced its support for the presidential bid of Marcos on Tuesday. Apart from the party's endorsement, Duterte and Marcos Jr. also met on Sunday, March 20. Baste Duterte added that he prefers that the president endorses Bongbong, adding that the former senator is leading in voter preference surveys conducted in Davao.
As far as I know, ngayon sa Davao mataas talaga siya. No? More than 80%, 85%, we're trying to push for 90%.
Nel Maribuhok, UNTV News and Rescue, we serve the people, we give glory to God.
Greetings poured in for President Rodrigo Duterte, who was celebrating his 77th birthday with his family in Davao City today. House Speaker Lord Alan Velasco said it is an honor to be considered a friend and ally of the president. He also thanked the president for what he has done for the country. Meanwhile, House Majority Leader Martin Romualdez said that the president's services to the country will be remembered in generations to come. President Duterte will end his 6-year term on June 30, 2022, and his only wish for his birthday is for an honest, fair, and clean elections, according to Malacanang.
And for the news abroad, wildfires terrorized the state of Colorado and Texas, USA, forcing families to evacuate their homes as flames burned down properties. Marvy Delfin will give us the details live. Yes, Marvy?
Mariel, the wildfires began at approximately 2 p.m. local time on Saturday over the weekend, and just hours into the afternoon, the wildfires left 50 hectares of land burnt down. Fortunately, evacuation orders covered over 8,000 homes, and mobile alerts issuing the evacuation order were sent to over 19,000 people in the affected areas. As the fire officials were able to contain 35%, restrictions have been lifted and families are now able to return back to their homes. However, they have been warned to stay alert as it may take many days for fire officials to fully extinguish the flames. Meanwhile, in the Eastland country of Texas, USA, many families were left with nothing as another wildfire set over 54,500 acres ablaze, destroying over 140 structures in Carbon, Kokomo, and Gorman. The cause of the fire remains unknown and is currently under investigation, but it is believed to have started on the 17th of March. Though by Saturday night, firefighters were able to contain 90% of the spread. Still, a red flag warning persists as potential fire risk may increase during the week. Muriel?
Marvi, are wildfires in the states of Colorado and Texas common around this time of the year?
Mariel, in Boulder County, Colorado, wildfires are very common and are considered a natural occurrence in the summer due to increased temperatures. Severity has increased in recent years as the 20 largest wildfires occurred in the last 20 years. Like Colorado, wildfires in Texas are now expected to increase as well as temperatures have risen beyond usual peaks as the state approaches summer, increasing fire risks. Back to you, Mariel.
Thank you, Marvidal Finn, reporting live. As Ukraine continues to battle Russia's invading troops, President Volodymyr Zelensky desperately calls for more arms from the West, while another official claims Russia is trying to split the nation. Mavi and Dog will tell us why live.
Mariel, in a recent video address, President Volodymyr Zelensky urges the West to provide more weaponry to his country to sustain Ukraine's defenses, while Russian missile attacks continue to trap and kill civilians.
Яка ціна цієї безпеки? Це дуже конкретно. Це літаки для України, це танки для нашої держави, це протиракетна оборона, це протикорабельна зброя. Це те, що є у наших партнерів, що у них просто припадає пилом.
He further accuses the West and NATO of cowardice for being intimidated by Moscow and asks to step up their assistance after waiting for almost a month now into the conflict.
1% ми не просили більше і не просимо більше, а чекаємо вже 31 день. Тож, хто керує євроатлантичною спільнотою? Невже досі Москва через залякування? Партнерам потрібно активізувати допомогу Україні.
Meanwhile, in a statement, head of Ukrainian military intelligence Kirill Budanov accused Russia of seeking to split Ukraine in a North and South Korea situation. This is in light of Russian President Vladimir Putin's aim to seize the eastern part of Ukraine. Furthermore, Luhansk People's Republic plans to hold a referendum on joining Russia, to which Ukraine's foreign ministry spokesperson Oleg Nikolenko says they are null and will have no legal validity. So far, Russia has failed to seize Ukraine's major cities and signaled that it would instead scale back its ambition and focus on Ukraine's Donbas region. Mariel?
Maeve, are there any updates on the negotiations between the two countries?
So far, Mariel, Ukraine and Russia's negotiators confirmed that the next round of face-to-face talks between the two countries will take place in Turkey from today until March 30. It was also reported that as part of a peace deal, President Zelensky said that Ukraine would discuss to consider declaring neutrality, offer security guarantees to Russia, and keeping Ukraine nuclear-free. Back to you, Mariel.
Thank you, Maeve and Dog, reporting live. Hong Kong reduced its flight quarantine rule down to 7 days to flights carrying 3 or more passengers who have tested positive upon arrival. Ruth Bahe will tell us why live. Yes, Ruth, good evening.
Yes, Mariel. The shortening of flight ban to 7 days is still part of an ongoing flight suspension mechanism starting on April 1. Despite the decreasing number of local cases and suggestions of experts to simply drop the mechanism, Hong Kong Chief Executive Carrie Lam emphasized that inbound flights needs to be balanced and as well as not to relax their control to keep Hong Kong safe.
There is no room for major relaxation because ultimately the purpose is still to ensure that we could implement effectively the policy to prevent the importation of cases into Hong Kong. This remains a fundamental pillar to Hong Kong's anti-epidemic policy. I have to make it very clear.
This change follows after the government announced flight bans last week from 9 countries, including Canada, India, Pakistan, Nepal, Britain, the United States, France, Australia, and the Philippines. Moreover, if airlines fail to comply with the requirements and bring at least one positive, the airline will face suspension from flying to route for 7 days. This suspension also applies if any single flight brings at least one case of non-compliance with pre-departure testing. The government considers lifting this ban for its stranded residents from these countries, but still need to impose quarantine hotel bookings and pre-departure tests. Marielle?
Ruth, what is the current situation of inbound COVID infections in Hong Kong?
Marielle, the rate of infected inbound passengers is slightly higher this March, but they see the situation manageable and mostly were asymptomatic and very mild symptoms. Back to you, Marielle.
Thank you, Ruth Bahe, for that live report. The Shanghai government has announced that starting Monday, each half of the city comprising millions of people will be on lockdown by turns to implement a citywide COVID-19 screening. The announcement comes as Shanghai reports 2,678 new cases on Saturday, which make up nearly half of the new cases in China that day, according to the country's National Health Commission. During the lockdown, all non-essential workers are required to work from home, and public transport services such as buses, subways, ferries, and taxis will be suspended. Residents are required to participate in the mass testing to maintain a green health code status, which would allow them to access grocery stores and public areas. To cope with surging cases, the Shanghai government has been distributing rapid antigen tests to households and has converted several stadiums and exhibition centers into quarantine facilities to relieve the pressure on hospitals. And those are the reasons behind the news in other parts of the globe. I am Mariela Toza reporting live from Perth, Australia. Good evening.
And before we close, we will leave you with a word, giving glory to God. From the book of James, chapter 2, verse 26. It says, "For as the body without the spirit is dead, so faith without works is dead also." And those are the reasons behind the news, March 28, 2022. Reasons we deliver to you as they unfold. I am Herlene Delgado.
Because we need to know, we will always ask why. I am William Theo. We serve the people. We give glory to God.